Tracy, as we all know, families are busy these days, right? And that's sort of one of the things that a lot of families, I think, say with implementing any spiritual practices or attending church. But what would your response be to folks who say they just don't have the time to prioritize practicing spiritual practices in their home life with their children?
Yeah. So a few things, a few little tips on that. I think the first would be to maybe reorient yourself to how much time it's actually going to take. So once you know what you're going to do, which that's probably the hardest part, the actual spiritual practices, we're talking like could be as little as 30 seconds to 2 minutes to 5 minutes a day. So it's actually not a lot of time for the actual practice. Once you decide, okay, you know what, as a family, we're going to practice gratitude once a week, or in the evening, we're going to do this examine, or whichever practice you've decided on, the actual time is not, it's not a lot of time. So that's the first thing I would say. The second is, the research on habits and sort of those neural pathways related to habits suggests that if you have an existing habit, it's easier to tack on something new to that habit. So if it's before bed or when you get up, I've been thinking about the time in the car. I have a commute that's like 8 minutes long. I use it almost every day to talk to my mom, and it's just a short, solid conversation. But that on my way home, I use it for silence, just me and my own thoughts. So that's a habit, right, that you can kind of add to. And then the third thing I would say is to look for times that are hidden in plain sight. The car, I already mentioned, the car is one. Another one would be when you're waiting, whatever you're waiting for, if you're in line or you're waiting for dinner to come out of the oven, or whatever it is, try and find those times that are hidden. And I said that was the last thing, but I have one more tiny thing. The last thing I think would be just to say, and this is part of maybe my cranky answer to the question, that we never have time for anything. We have to make time for the things that are important to us. And so runners that run marathons, they get the same question: how do you find the time to train? And I, as an author, get this question all the time: how do you find time with 3 small children to write a book? How do you find time? That we don't ever have the time. We have to demand it and make it and carve it out and say that there is time, because there is, if we're willing to push through a little bit and say this is a high value that I hold.
Time is what we make of it, right?
Yes,
We do. We
exactly.
make the time for what we prioritize.
Yeah, absolutely.